Hey everyone, welcome to Expand Your Referral Network. I'm Andy Winnig, and I'm really excited to be on this call today. So if you haven't yet, go ahead and post in the chat box where you're calling in from, something you're grateful for today. If you have any questions, feel free to throw those in anytime. I like taking questions as we go. I'm not a wait till the end of the call kind of guy. So if you have questions as I'm talking about anything, just go ahead and type them in. And then also let me know something you're grateful for today. I'm super grateful for you giving me about 60 minutes of your time to learn something new. I love teaching this program because I see so many people getting stuck on their business networking. You know, people who, while they believe there can be huge benefits from business networking, and there are, have never seen those kinds of results from a single event, and so they incorrectly conclude that business networking is a waste of time. And it happened to me for years. I would attend an event, talk to a bunch of people, share my elevator pitch, and then no one would ever approach me. Worse yet, when I tried to follow up with them, they didn't recognize my name or even remember meeting me. And so now that I teach business networking, I can see every mistake that I made. In fact, many clients come to me because they feel like they're wasting their time at disappointing networking events. Yet when we talk through an event, any event they went to, when we pick it apart, we quickly spot several good opportunities they overlooked. It turns out that business networking success does not look like what we've been taught to expect. And for years, I couldn't spot the many great opportunities that were right in front of me because I was following up in the wrong way with the wrong people about the wrong things. It turns out that I didn't need to attend different events or meet new people. I just needed to change my mindset and my approach to talking to people, starting with how I describe what I do, how I choose what people to follow up with, and how I go about strengthening the right relationships. People I had known for years were suddenly interested and engaged and sharing opportunities. See, the thing that no one had taken the time to fully teach me is that business networking is a process. And the first step in that process is attending an event. Business networking is the series of strategies you apply next to move the process forward, developing trust and communication to expand your referral network and attract better leads. If this sounds exciting to you, if this is information you're interested in, go ahead and type in the chat box. Let me know you are excited to be here and that this is the kind of thing you want to be working on. I always like to check in just to make sure people get what I'm talking about, and I'm kind of on the right track, and people are psyched to learn this stuff. So go ahead, just whatever you're thinking as we get started. Go ahead and type that in now. I get super excited because I know that about 60 minutes from now, you'll have a whole new approach to business networking. You won't be stuck anymore. You won't be wondering which events to attend or who to follow up with or what to say when you follow up. We're going to cover all that in just a second. Good. It's a lot of excited people. Carolyn's, yes. Deidre's, I'm excited. That's great. Got someone calling in from Singapore. Wonderful. Welcome to be here. Welcome to be here. I don't want to waste my time. Yep. That's great. Audio is so interested in improving business network. Yeah, people are having some audio stuff, so going to try to keep the microphone close to my mouth. Thanks for that. Thank you for that feedback. So okay. I want to share with you a story. We're going to get into the really fun part here. So I'm going to ask you, before I get into this story, I'm going to ask you, put your phone down. Many of you are holding it in your hands. So flip it over, put it aside. I highly recommend that you maximize your screen so you can see everything we're going to do and not get distracted. It's really much easier to see some of the stuff I'm going to show you if your screen is kind of at its full size. And so let's get going. I want to tell you a story. It's actually my story about the first time I fully understood the power of networking. So what do all great business networking stories start with? I met someone who's generated thousands of dollars in business for me so far without ever becoming a customer. And we'll call this guy Steve because, well, that's his name. He's a Jewish guy like me who, like me, loves a delicatessen named Zoftig's. And so we sat down in Natick for a one-to-one, and it was a blast talking to this guy. Fun, funny, very personable, fellow entrepreneur. Just like me, he owns a couple of businesses. And that's where the one-to-one gets interesting, almost. I mean, he's a promotional products guy, just like a lot of folks. But when he hears about my second business, he mentions his. He has this product for car dealerships, and my window cleaning business does a lot of work with local car dealerships. And it turns out that car dealerships are a great referral for him. So, do I immediately send him all my car dealership contacts? No, I do not. I do nothing. I don't really know this guy yet. I'm not putting my best customers in front of me. So I let it sit. And we follow up with each other occasionally over the next several months using some of the techniques I'll talk about here in a second. Nothing pushy, just checking in, sharing successes in our business. Like I said, I like the guy. I mean, I don't mind hearing from him. Then it happens. Call it serendipity or fate or kismet, but now I just call it business networking. I'm doing a presentation for a networking group, and the owner of one of the car dealerships is in the audience. So after the presentation, I approach him. I tell him a little about Steve, and I say I think it could be a good connection. He agrees. Then he tells me he wants to follow up with me. So long story short, this car dealership guy hires me to coach his sales team, and he ends up signing up with Steve for massage chairs for the waiting room for his service department. And that was really a big aha moment for me about the power of networking. I approached someone with something for him, a referral that I thought would benefit him. And it also turned into a sale for me. Now, would I have signed him up if I hadn't approached him that day? I don't think so. But I'll tell you, I now look for any excuse to approach people after a presentation, any reason at all to start a conversation. I'm always looking for reasons not having to do with me to start talking to people. And that's easier to do when you have a strong business network. So the next time someone tells you that business networking takes time, it's true. It took 9 months to get the opportunity to make this connection because it takes that kind of time to develop trust and to find the right kind of situation. So we're going to be talking about how some things happen fast and some really good stuff happens slow. Then we're going to talk about the course. There are still 3 openings, I think, for April along the way. And then at the end, I'll give a little more information. So there are 5 principles I want to talk about. And it's very much parallels the way I do the coaching. I mean, the coaching is 3 months, but one thing at a time. I go through one thing at a time. So my overriding philosophy of business networking, I can sum up in 2 words. But before I give you those 2 words, let's think about the following scenario. I live in the Boston area, in Boston, Massachusetts. And I have cousins who actually live out in San Francisco, out in California, about 3,000 miles away. So let's suppose for a moment that I want to take a cross-country road trip to visit them in my car. Now, I don't know why I'd do that. I mean, that's why they invented planes. But bear with me just for a minute. So, you know, I get my car all ready. I get in the driver's seat. I set out, get on the Massachusetts Turnpike, I head west all the way through Massachusetts, past Springfield into New York. I'm going to stay on the Pike into upstate New York, and then around Albany, an interesting thing happens. A light goes on my dashboard. It's my fuel gauge. I'm running out of gas. Now, what I'll ask you is, at this point, do I throw up my hands and ask how I could ever have trusted this car to get me to San Francisco? Do I start thinking that cars are a huge waste of time? Do I start thinking that I should get rid of my car and stop using them altogether? No, of course not. I pull into a gas station and fill her up. Yet, that's how a lot of people approach business networking. They recognize the promise of people calling them with leads. But the first time someone doesn't call them back, or someone tells them no, or the person they really want to meet isn't at the event, instead of taking a simple step to fix it, they give up and assume that business networking is flawed. And so these 5 principles we're talking about today are like your business networking fuel gauge, in that they show you how to respond to whatever situation you're facing. And that's really key. I was out skiing with my brother, out west skiing with my brother many years ago. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with skiing, here in the northeast of the U.S., it's pretty icy. So you learn to lean hard on your skis to set the edge so you don't go sliding off the side of the mountain. But it turns out that doesn't work so well out west, where there's a lot of powder. And so the instructor I was working with out there was recommending I put myself in the back seat, meaning to lean my weight back. And I stopped him to make sure I fully understood what he was telling me. I actually said to him, look, I'm from the east, and it's been drilled into my head for years now that I always have to have my weight forward. Always. I just want to make sure that I understand you correctly, that here in the powder, I do want to shift my weight back. And this guy, he looks at me kindly. Well, I mean, the way I'd imagine a drill sergeant looks kindly at his cadets. And then he gives me some of the best business networking advice I ever got. I mean, he was talking about skiing, but it's exactly the same for business networking. He said, look, he said, you're an advanced skier now. He said, you're going to use different skills based on the snow condition. See, beginners always apply the same skill in the same way. That's what they know. You become more advanced as you learn new skills to handle many different kinds of situations. And the more skills you have in your quiver, the easier it is to handle whatever it is that's coming your way. And that's what these 5 principles are. They're a roadmap. So no matter where you are, you know what skill to apply next to keep the process of developing relationships moving forward. And that's what business networking is. It's about developing relationships. It's about developing trust. It's about getting to know people, getting to know people who are not your customers. But again, we'll talk more about that in a minute. And it all starts with where. Where do your prospects hang out? This is the question. This is the question I get all the time. You got to think really hard about where your prospects hang out. And you know what? That's backwards. It's the wrong question. And the construct has led so many people astray, thinking that you need to find this some sort of magical place where your prospects are. And I'll say to you that I'm a Boston Red Sox fan. So first of all, if you're in Fenway Park with every one of the 40,000 seats filled with a legitimate prospect for you, that is not the time to network. That is the time to sell. If you're in front of prospects, you sell. Networking is what brings those people and puts them in the seats, right? Networking is how you bring those legitimate leads to you. And I got to tell you that the leads that networking brings to you, you don't have to sell very hard. I got a referral just last week from somebody I've met through a bunch of networking, and I know her husband pretty well, and I know her, and she referred someone over. He became a customer instantly. I sat down, had a one-to-one with him. He signed right up. People already trust you. So where do you go? Well, pretty much anywhere. See, because you're not looking for prospects. The key is not looking for a place where prospects hang out. You're looking for people you can get to know and trust, who know and trust your prospects. And these people hang out everywhere. It's great news for business networking because most of the people in any room are not and never will be your customers. But don't ignore them. I'll say that again. Most of the people in any room are never going to work with you, ever. But that doesn't mean they aren't very potentially valuable to your business network because every one of them knows several hundred people. And see, that's the real value in business networking. Let me give you an example. Here's Ann. Ann has gone through my coaching program, and she summed the where part up very nicely. She says, I was at a networking event the other night. It wasn't a great event, but I was sitting next to a business coach who now wants to meet with me to learn how I can help her clients. Then I was talking to someone in the hall who knows someone who's a perfect referral for me. It works. Yes, Ann, thank you. It does work. I agree. Now, I'll suggest, I'm always interested when people talk about how it was a bad networking event and then tell me about all the great stuff that happened at the event. Any event where you get two leads like this is a pretty good event. That's a pretty good event. So a lot of people have this kind of skewed. I'm not sure what she was expecting from the event, but again, any event where you get two leads is good. And so part of it is that we need to change how we talk about what we do. I found that what you say is much more important than where you say it. Because anytime you're around people, there's a good chance that those people either now or in the future will know or meet someone who is good for you. So let's do a quick exercise. I want to help you now come up with a 7-word elevator pitch. And it's not nearly as difficult as everyone thinks. So, of course, with my coaching clients, I take them through. I have an hour-long process with my coaching clients where we come up with a full 30-second elevator pitch and a clean 7-word answer to what do you do. But I want to just give you a taste of that now. We'll think about 7 words. And so I use a more rigorous process with my coaching clients. But this exercise I'm going to do with you right now generally gets people about 85% of the way there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put up some examples, and then just ask you to come up with something that describes what you do. Right, just come up with something to describe what you do in 7 words. So look at the examples. Don't think too hard. Come up with 7 words, and it can be 10, like 7 to 10 words to describe what you do, and just go ahead and type that into the chat box. So I'll work with you. We're going to spend a couple of minutes here working on your elevator pitch. It's one of the most important things. So here are the examples. I help young dentists design their first office. I help first-time home buyers test drive their new home. I help mothers empower their teenage daughters. I help introverts look forward to networking events. Yes, that is what I do. I eliminate conflict from the workplace. I'm a mobile accountant. I come to you. So those are a couple of examples. I'm going to go quiet. It's very hard for me, but I'm going to go quiet for about 10 or 15 seconds. I want you just to take one that seems right to you, change it a little bit, move it, or if you got something completely different, just come up with about 7 words that talk about what you do, and then go ahead and type that into the chat box. Oh, excellent. You're a lively crew, and I appreciate that. So let's see. help people with their medicine. So David, that's a good start. It's a little bit, help them take their medicine. I mean, are you a pharmacist or are you a doctor or a prescriber? So I'd like to be a little bit more specific. And people who work with me, they know I ask you to get really, really specific because that's how you get people. So you help them take the medicine, you help them decide what medicine to take, or that sort of thing. Now, Carolyn, help business owners get their online marketing sorted. Yes, Carolyn, that's a good start. The online marketing I think is good. I'd like to be a little more specific about business owners, maybe the type of business they tend to be in. And online marketing, I mean, online marketing is such a catch-all phrase. It can be anything from, from email to pay-per-click to AdWords. So there's so much, and so I like to kind of pick a little narrower thing. Hillary, I help companies keep their name in front of customers. I like that. I think that's a good start. David, I help people protect their families. From what? So I think it's important. Protect their families. Again, it's a little bit vague. You protect them from, thieves in the night, or you protect them from, bullies at school, or kind of what is it? What is it that you do that? Aldo, I provide a tool that empowers the future. So again, empowers the future is one of those great phrases. It's got great energy to it, but it doesn't really tell me. So nobody's. I would suggest that probably nobody's coming to you saying, "Hey Aldo, help me. I need to empower my future." Right? They're not saying that. So what I like to talk about is, what does that mean? Does that mean that they're going to start their own business? Does that mean that they're going to fix the relationship with their family? Does that mean, what do you mean by empower their future? Let's get a specific example of that. We are a paint and sip art studio and throw parties for every occasion. Gary, I love that. Paint and sip art studio. I think that's a really cool. I think that's pretty clear what you do. That's great. So parties for every occasion. Excellent. Courtney, I help people stay active, connected through better hearing. Interesting. Courtney, I'd like to hear how that helped. No pun intended, but I'd like to help. That's an interesting way of phrasing that. I like that. I would encourage you to suggest that. Now, so David, yes, you're a pharmacist. So I'd like to think a little more deeply how you help people with medicine. What are the challenges people have with their medicine? How they should take it, or how much they should do, or kind of what. If you think a little more specifically about how you're helping people, I think that'll help. Dawn, help solve problems and increase efficiency. Dawn, thanks for putting that through, because I always get something like this. And I'll suggest that everyone on the call, your job is to solve problems and increase efficiency, right? And my thing, the thing for me is that I'm not really looking for help solving problems, right? I mean, I may be looking to help my kid learn to play tennis. I may be looking to help, do some email marketing in my business. I may be, looking to come up with something for dinner, right? There are a lot of problems that I'm solving. But I don't think of it in terms of solving problems. I think about it in the specific problems. And so whatever problem you're solving, I would specifically name some sort of problem that you're solving. David, I help people protect their families with life health insurance. That's better. Yep, I like that. So that kind of anchors it. And I work a lot with insurance folks, and there's a bunch of cool things you can do. A lot of people think insurance folks are all the same, but of course they're not. And there's a lot of work that I do with insurance folks to help you stand out even with that crowd. Courtney, active and connected. Yep, that's great. Claire, I actively market commercial property on a global scale. Yeah, I kind of like that. That's commercial property on a global scale. I'm not sure you need actively in there. I market commercial property on a global scale. That may be intriguing enough. I'd encourage you to try that out and see where it goes. The Dawn, so you've gone to organizational efficiency. Again, I'm going to challenge you to be a little bit more like what problems of organizational efficiency do you solve? Do you solve training problems? Do you solve annual review problems? I designed smart electronic solutions. Great. And again, be more specific. What kinds of electronic solutions? Are you doing garage door openers? Are you doing something in cars? Like the specifics are help. Paul, I help people build their business through web development. So I help people build websites. I mean, you could do that. I help small businesses build their first website, something like that, something specific like that. Al, I help newbie speakers write descriptions about their speech that fill a room. Excellent. You're thinking about this. Yeah. Again, Al's been through my more intensive training, and good work. That's a good one. Martha, I deliver sessions that help managers develop core leadership competencies. Excellent. Martha's also a customer of mine. Good work, Martha. That's great. Janice, help companies prepare for the digital world. Again, what does it mean to prepare for the digital world? Like, are people preparing for the digital world, or do they need to be online? So Martha, then you skewed off. I offer an award-winning leadership and management development program. No. I'd go with the first thing. I deliver sessions. I deliver sessions that help managers develop core leadership competencies. You could even say I deliver sessions that help managers manage more effectively. It could be something, the core leadership competencies sounds, again, that's marketing speak. And I don't have, managers aren't looking to develop core leadership competencies, right? They're looking to get better, get better at holding people accountable. They're looking to get better at reducing absenteeism. They're looking to get better at all that kind of stuff. So, how people create memorable events with custom desserts. Deidre, I like that. Memorable events, custom desserts. That's nice. There's nice both general and specificity to that. I'd be interested to hear how that works. With any of these, feel free to email me. Go out and try them. I go out and try them. And again, when you're in the grocery store, people ask you what you do. Just answer with this. Help facilitate senior living search with families, loved ones. Great. That's Catherine. That's great. That's very clear. Ryan, I help builders and contractors get more leads using the internet. Again, excellent, Ryan. Good work. Carolyn, you get more clients with less work with my 6-step system. Yeah, so now you're kind of heading, I like what you had earlier, Carolyn. Like, again, it's less about how you do it, more about what you do. So more clients with less work is part of it. But again, I'd like to hear, like everyone helps with that. I mean, everyone helps. I help people do that, right? More clients with less work. That's what I do. So you don't really set yourself apart with that. Mobile devices, although you're getting closer. Yeah, Martha, that's great. I deliver sessions that help managers lead more effectively. All right, they're still coming in. I want to make sure I keep on track. But you get a sense now of what's going on. You get a sense of kind of what working with me. And again, in the coaching program that I do, I take you through. This is a small piece of what we spend the hour doing, just kind of gathering all this up and talking effectively about what you do. So, can the elevator pitch help you get leads? Well, yeah. I mean, let's talk about Jack for a second, because Jack's a client of mine. His dad is a sales guru. Like, his dad is dyed-in-the-wool sales guy with an actual Rolodex. I mean, remember those? That actual ring of paper. You stick the paper onto this ring on your desk and has all your contacts in it. It gets dog-eared, and you keep flipping through it, and you give people cards. And so, Jack comes from a good sales pedigree, but he didn't know much about business networking. And as I said, the first hour with any coaching client is spent writing a new elevator pitch. I have a series of questions I ask, so I get to know you, then we write the pitch together. And Jack tried it out later that week, and this is what he said. I gave my new 30-second elevator pitch at a networking event the other night, and 2 people approached me afterwards to invite me to do a presentation for their company. Thanks for your help. And what I'm doing with these folks is we're being really super specific about what they offer. I mean, Jack is kind of a business consultant, but when he presented himself as a business consultant, he wasn't getting any leads. And again, the way he started talking, we gave him a new way of talking about himself, and that got him to the point that he was getting more stuff. And so I want to give you kind of two more things about the where you go. So the first thing is that when you're choosing an event, so when I say you can really go anywhere, and that's true. But the thing to think about, the way that events are not created equal, is it's best to choose an event you can attend multiple times. It's what I call the 4M rule. 4 months. If you can only attend an event once, then really all you're doing is cold calling, right? If you're going to an event and meeting people for the first time and giving your elevator pitch, you're kind of just cold calling. I mean, business networking is the process over time of getting to know people. So one-off events aren't usually a great option. I mean, it's not that there's no reason to go to them. But you're more looking for a series of events. This is why business networking groups work, because you see the same people over time and you get to know them better, right? And so, but if you're going to a chamber, a lot of chambers have kind of ongoing networking events, and it's good to kind of plan to go to as many of those as you can, because as people see you multiple times, as you keep showing up, that builds trust, and that's kind of where you're going. So again, the one-off event isn't really that helpful. The final thing I'll say about where to meet the right people is that the where can be anywhere. And when you have a great 7-word elevator pitch especially, you can use that in line at the grocery store, sitting at your kid's soccer game, over lunch with friends. I call this the back door, because you can actually start networking with people before they realize that they're networking. They'll be so much more relaxed, natural, and authentic, and you will too. And so it won't always start a conversation, but when it does start a conversation, it's a really, really good conversation, and the right kind of conversation to be in with the right kind of people. So I like to have people relax. I work with a lot of people who say, well, I don't really do much networking. I'm like, you're doing more than you think you are, right? There are a lot of opportunities going on, especially when you're especially when you're just talking to people, that you have a chance to put something in their head that they'll know how to contact you, right? And when you take advantage of that, that's really what helps. So and again, if you have questions as I'm going through, I know I'm kind of cruising through this, but if you have questions as I go, please type them in the chat box. I love taking questions as I go. I don't want you to be confused. Like I don't want you to be stuck. So if you have a question as I'm talking, please feel free to type it in. So we've kind of covered choosing the right events, and again, I would say your homework here, the kind of work that we're doing, come up with a 7-word elevator pitch and try it out. You're looking for something very specific. It should be uncomfortably specific. And again, it's not everything you can do. It's just the way of getting the conversation started. So choosing the right events. And when you have a good elevator pitch, you'll start better conversations. And when you attend the same event multiple times, you get to know people and start developing trust. So that's the where. So let's talk about meeting the right people. Meeting the right people. Okay, so this confused me for years. I would say this is probably the thing that held me back for the longest. Who are the right people? Who are these right people that we're all supposed to be meeting that are going to help us grow our business? And so let's talk about conversations for a minute, because back when I was single, that's a while ago now, but I went speed dating when I was single. And this particular speed dating event was 7-minute dates. And the way these things worked, if you both agree to see each other again, then you get each other's contact information and you can set up another date. And, one woman in particular seemed nice enough. I thought we had connected, and apparently she did too. So I asked her out for dinner. It turned out that what the 7-minute speed date did not rule out was a woman with whom I only had 8 minutes of conversation with. That's right. By the time we got to the restaurant, we had run out of things to say. It was really the most painful dinner ever. But you know what? That's why you date. I mean, if you connected instantly with everyone, you wouldn't need to do any of this. If you connected instantly with everyone you met, you wouldn't need business networking. The reason you do this stuff is to rule people out, right? It's a hall of mirrors. People are not who they seem. They're not who they seem. And so having a 7-minute conversation doesn't necessarily mean you can have a 10-minute conversation. And that woman and I, after a particularly awkward and uncomfortable dinner, never saw each other again. No harm, no foul. Networking is about developing trust, and that can't happen in one conversation. You're looking for multiple conversations to happen. And I'll warn you, even with the best elevator pitch, if you start 3 or 4 conversations in a room of 40 people, that's a pretty good night of networking. Again, I mean, when you think about kind of what you're trying to get out of a night of networking, you're only looking for 3 to 4 people. Like if you connect with 3 to 4 people, that's great. And the best part is, you do not have to follow up with any of the other people. I give you permission right now. You never have to call them. If you couldn't start a conversation at the event, it won't be any easier on follow-up. In fact, it will be impossible and uncomfortable and awkward. And I'm sure that many of you have experienced that, right? That you try to call people and it doesn't work. And that's why calling from business cards, it just doesn't work, right? If someone hands you a business card but there was no conversation, you just make a little note on the card and throw it directly in the trash when you get home. But Andy, there might be a big opportunity. I don't want to throw out opportunities. Yeah, it isn't an opportunity, but believe me, I've tried. Everything I talk about, I have tried. I called and cajoled and emailed, and believe me, if you didn't connect at the event, if you didn't have a conversation, there is no point in following up. Everyone's worried they're going to miss the big break, but again, when you let go of that, when you just clear off your desk of business cards and don't feel like you need to call everybody, that frees up all sorts of mental and energy and time to do the process that we're talking about today, or we're going to get into that in a minute. And when you do that process, it works really well to get to know people, and you will no longer feel like you need to connect with everyone that you meet. And so who are the right people? The right people are, you ready for this? You taking notes? The right people are the people you enjoy talking to. People are always amazed when I say that. But the right people to network with are the people that you enjoy talking to. Simple as that. To develop trust, you have to have multiple conversations. So it might as well be with people you enjoy talking to, right? And I'll say, too, that it should be non-prospects that you enjoy talking to. These are people who are not going to be your customers. Because remember, if you happen to be face-to-face with a prospect, and I define here a prospect as someone who has the budget and the urgent immediate need for what you do, but if you're face-to-face with a legitimate prospect, then set up a sales meeting for after the event, or the first thing the next morning, or as soon as you can, set up a sales meeting to meet with them, right? You want to sit down and sell them. Then continue networking with other people. You do not network with prospects. I confused this for years, and it got in the way of me doing sales. It got in the way that you really want to. I like to clear this up for people. You sell to prospects. You network with non-prospects, and the idea of networking is that with networking, people can send you actual prospects. And the thing is that I say sell, and people are like, oh, selling. But I'll suggest to you that if someone comes up to you, Martha, I'll pick on you for a minute because I'm familiar with what Martha does. But if someone comes up to Martha and says, hey, Martha, I've got some managers and they need some leadership training. Can we talk about that? Martha's in her element at that point, right? If Martha can get more people like that, that's really good for her business. That'll really help her grow her business. And so that's really what we're talking about here. We're talking about getting people to understand enough about what you do that they can send you the people who want to learn about what you do. And you're able to talk about that, right? You won't have any trouble talking about that. So let's talk about conversation for a minute. I want to quickly go through what I call the anatomy of a conversation. And we're talking about conversations, especially in networking. There are two kinds of conversations you can have, and people get these confused all the time too. There's individual conversations. So this is where you're talking to someone one-to-one. You're talking to someone face-to-face. You're mingling and talking to people. That's the individual conversation. The group conversations are when you stand up and you deliver what people normally call the elevator pitch, right? This is kind of the 30-second elevator pitch. You stand up and deliver this pitch. And the confusion people have is that they frequently try to use their 30-second elevator pitch as the answer to what do you do. And it's too much too soon. And so what I recommend and what I teach people in the coaching programs that I do, when you're doing individual conversations, the way you get into a natural and authentic conversation is that there are only three questions people are ever going to ask you. How's it going? What do you do? And how do you do that? And it turns out that when you get skilled at this, when you understand conversations and kind of move the conversation through this, when you have answers to these three questions, you can steer the right conversations in the right way. And so I'm going to use an example of a client I worked with recently. He's a copier salesman. Who would have thought, copier salesman? But it's actually pretty cool what he does. And so how's it going? Awesome. I just saved a private school $30,000. And now even for this guy, you'd say, awesome, I just saved a private school $30,000. I think that's pretty intriguing, but a lot of people don't. And in fact, I would say 95% of people will not find that. Oh, okay. And they just move on. And that's fine. Again, what our goal in networking is to rule people out. We're looking to rule out the people that we don't want to talk to, right? We're looking for the people that make sense to spend our time with. Someone said earlier, I don't want to waste my time. And this is part of how you don't waste your time. You have a quick thing like this. How's it going? Awesome. I just saved a private school $30,000. And people who don't respond to it, shake their hand. Very nice to meet you. Move on. There are other things you can do to try to start the conversation. Again, I work through that in the coaching programs. But again, if someone doesn't respond to it, that's fine. Move on to someone else. Again, you're only going to connect with a few people. But what can happen is you say, awesome, I just saved a private school $30,000. People look at you like crazy, like $30,000 private school. Like you saved them like half a tuition. Like what is it that you do? This, folks, is where you use your 7 words, the 7 words we worked on earlier. This is where that actually goes. This is what you want to do here. I work with private schools who are stuck in long-term copier leases. And I'll say here that, do you think this copier salesman, do you think he only sells to private schools? No, of course not. He'll sell to government agencies. He'll sell to Fortune 500 companies. He'll sell copiers to anyone. But when I work with you on your elevator pitch, we find this very, very clear thing. It's the kind of thing, if someone sends him a private school, he's got a great program for private schools. It's very easy for him to save them money. And so you want that. And the thing you'll notice is when you're this specific, you say, I work with private schools who are stuck in long-term copier leases. Somebody will say to you, yeah, I work at a Fortune 100 company and we're stuck in a copier lease. Could you help me? And at that point, the guy's pre-qualified himself, right? Now you know exactly what to talk to the guy about. And so the whole holy grail of the elevator pitch is when you use specifics, you help other people think of themselves in terms of those specifics. And again, kind of no matter what they say, could you help a government agency? Yeah, I'd be happy. That's sales, right? And you switch to sales. Yeah, I'd love to sit down with you and talk about what I do. When's a good time to sit down with you, right? Stop networking. At that point, you stop networking and set up a sales meeting. If you're networking, what do you do? They may say, long-term private, no, how do you do that? And this is where you tell a client success story. I sell a private school on a tight budget, felt stuck in their 5-year copier lease. Then he can start in. And again, this is what we're looking for, right? What I talk about with the networking is, again, I picked on Martha, that if someone comes up to Martha and says, hey, I'm trying to train my manager. I really need some training for my managers. Let's talk about that. She doesn't have any trouble talking about that. And this individual conversational thing we're talking about is how you find those people. It's how you find the people who are interested in talking about the thing that you want to talk about. You can't start off telling them everything. You can't start off telling them all the cool stuff that you do. You just start off with kind of teasers, and the right people will grab it, and that will happen. I got a great question from Elle. How do you decide which one to use? Private school, Fortune 500? That's a great question, Elle. That is part of what I work with in the coaching, and the answer is we're looking for the thing that gets the best response. Looking for the thing that gets the best response, or the thing that they're most excited to work with. I mean, this copier guy actually, he had a pretty good. He liked working with private schools. It was a really good environment for him, so that's the thing we're working on. But you want it to be something you're very comfortable doing, and something that if you got a whole bunch of them, you'd be very happy. So you want specifics that are something you're willing to take a lot of, and something you can do a really good job at. That's kind of what you're looking at, and within that, you can tune it to make sure that you get the best response out of it. But again, the specifics are the thing that you really want to be doing. So he loves working with private schools. So that's the what I call the conversational side. The group side, when you're giving a 30-second elevator pitch, and again, this is the part that I go through. And so, even in a 30-second elevator pitch, you still need to grab people's attention. So we start with the power question. Does your copy or lease feel more like a mortgage? The kind of thing, so many people start their elevator pitch. Hi, my name is Andy. I'm with Improv Andy. I've been doing this for 8 years. Okay, folks, but none of that has, a good power question for you is something like, do you get tongue-tied at networking events? Right? I mean, it's something that kind of puts something on them, or you want to talk about them. So the power question draws them in. The success story, Seattle Private School on a tight budget felt stuck in a 5-year lease. We had with our program, we dropped their payment from $900 to $400 a month. Right? You tell the success story about the specific customer that you worked with. Very, very important. And Al, this goes back to your question here. You decide what you say by the actual customer that you work with. That's kind of how you figure this out. You give that success story, and then folks, the call to action. No elevator pitch has a call to action. Like I would say, 99.9% of elevator pitches I hear do not have a call to action. But given that you can't build trust the first time you meet someone, and that you're going to need an additional conversation, what you're looking for is some way to give people to keep in touch with you. And so his call to action is, it's never too early to do a complimentary review of your current lease, right? A lot of copier people feel like they're stuck in their lease. There's nothing they can do. But there's never a bad time to show him your lease, right? He wants people to bring him their leases. If you bring him your copier lease, he can get you out of it and save you money at the same time. And so that's really the call to action, kind of when should you come to him? You don't need to wait until your lease is up. You come to him now. Right, that you can come to him now and he'll take a look at your lease thing. So the call to action is very important. So I put these side to side. You'll see that they're related, right? They're two related things, but they're a little bit different because on the left-hand side, you're kind of building a conversation step by step, block by block. On the right-hand side, you've been given 30 to 40 seconds to talk, and so you want to get that client information in there. You want to grab their attention. You want to give them a client story because that's how they figure out people they should send to you. And then you want to have a call to action so they can keep in touch with you. That's really what we're doing from this kind of thing. And you'll notice the crossover here is that client success story. And that is the work. Again, when I talk about the hour-long program that I do, that's a lot of the work that we do is picking that story, picking the right story to tell and telling it in 2 sentences, because that's a challenge. Again, it only takes about half an hour to come up with that, but that's what we work with. And once you have that, it's really easy to talk about what you do in a way that people bring you the right kind of leads. And at this point, I always like to talk about Craig because, Craig, when I met Craig, he'd already had a long and good career. I mean, his company was doing great. Like he was doing great. But in 31 years, and here was his comment to me. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, the guy had 31 years of experience. Like, what am I teaching him? But in my 31 years of business, I've had maybe 2 people ask a clarifying question after hearing my old elevator pitch. Since working with you, I've tripled that number in less than a week. Right, here's a super successful guy, but he didn't get that the whole point of networking was to start conversations, right? You want your elevator pitch to start conversations. You want to say something that gets people to respond to you. And so he didn't know that. He did not know that. So I want to talk for just a minute about the coaching program I do, and then we'll get back to the other 3 topics that we're going to talk about. So Escape from Cold Calling, it's a 3-month private coaching session with me. Month 1, we come up with your new elevator pitch. We do a kind of an inventory of the events and the people that you know. We talk through all that stuff, and I always find people know a lot more people than they think they do. There's a lot more opportunities in the people that they already know and the stuff they're already doing than they think there is. Then month 2, we focus on following up. Again, we're going to talk about the techniques for that. And month 3 is professional referrals. We're going to talk about that too, but that's that's really the key. And I'll say that what I work you through in this program, I have worksheets and everything for everything. I mean, I've got this codified. I got a book out. I got another book coming out. Like, I've got worksheets and a whole process and everything. So I work you through this. This worksheet looks crazy, but again, it only takes us an hour to do the whole thing. And then the other thing that I offer, I love, it's my Prepare, Pitch, and Profit program, which is how you prepare for an event, how you pitch during the event, and how you profit afterwards. And this, again, is the kind of thing that I work people through. It's based on all the stuff we're doing today. Like, all the information is kind of in the program we're doing today, but for people who like to, work one-on-one, and it's helpful to kind of have someone guide you through it. That's kind of what the coaching program is for. So a quick thing about the coaching program. Let's get back. So now we're talking about the so that's a piece of the way it's set up. And so now let's talk about strengthening relationships. And again, I know I'm going through this. If you have any questions, people are typing in questions, and that's great. Feel free to type in questions. So let's talk about strengthening relationships. Because as I said, getting to know people, business networking is about getting to know people over time. So how do you get to know people? How do you get to know people? Like, how does that work? And one day, Tom Vance, who actually ran the first networking group I ever joined, this was over 15 years ago, stood up in front of us and pulled out a fishbowl. We thought he had lost his mind. But, and this is a great tip for anyone on the call who is part of a networking group or runs a networking group, or any kind of thing in the networking group. This is amazing, right? This technique will get you so much better results from the group. Here's how it works. The fishbowl goes around the table twice. The first time, everyone puts in their business card, and the second time, everyone takes out a business card, not their business card, of course. Take out someone else's business card. And now you have two one-to-ones, the card you drew and the person who drew your card. And folks, if you only take one thing away from today's program, it's this technique here. Sit down for coffee. And Elle, you asked about this. How do I do coffee talks? I've never called them coffee talks. I call them one-to-ones. But it's the same thing, yes. So you sit down with coffee. And I mentioned earlier, I don't do a whole lot of networking events anymore, but I do sit down with a lot of people for one-to-ones. People send me referrals. People send me introductions. That's when I sit down with people. And so you're at the event. You notice who you enjoy talking to, right? You're looking for people you enjoy talking to. That's when you exchange business cards and invite them out for coffee. And again, in my coaching program, I offer full scripts for how to do that. I have a full script you can send for inviting people to I think exactly what to say. And here's why. Because the business networking, it's kind of like the Wizard of Oz. There's a secret behind the business networking curtain. And the secret is that no business really happens at the event. It all takes place outside the event. And so what do you do? How do you get into that? Like, how do you get into the, I know people, and I was one of these. I went to events. I religiously went to events, but nothing was happening. I could not figure out what I was missing. And what you're missing is the only thing you're looking for when you attend an event is you're looking for 3 people to invite to a one-to-one. It's the only thing. And then again, you may meet some prospects. Like you may have some sales opportunities that come out of the event, which is great. I'm all for that. Set up sales meeting, go get them, go sign them up. But what the real value in the business networking event is that you're looking for 3 people you enjoy talking to. You can invite them to a one-on-one. And this is when you really start getting to know people. This is when people start to understand your work and get to know you. I'll say it again. I mean, this kind of connection can't happen at the event. And so we don't force it at the event, and don't be disappointed after the event. Set up coffee. The good stuff happens over coffee with someone that you enjoy talking to. And I mean, as people in my network, I've had coffee with dozens of times. And every time we get together, cool things happen. It's absolutely amazing. And so for the purposes of today's training, for your homework at your next event, find 2 people you like talking to and invite them out to coffee. And this is where you listen to stories about their client successes, where you share yours. This is how you get to know each other. And you ask them how they get into their line of work and what they love about their work. And you're just getting to know each other. And there are only 3 things that can happen from the one-to-one. Well, I mean 4 actually, that nothing may happen. And that's fine. Remember my 8-minute date. You sit down with someone and there's no synergy. Your job is not to create synergy or wonder what it is. Your job is to recognize it doesn't exist, be polite and friendly, and move on. Still a great question. Thanks. Yes. What about a follow-up call versus a face-to-face? Sometimes you do need to do a follow-up call. I mean, there are times when you can't. There are times when you meet people and you can't legitimately meet face-to-face, and a follow-up call is fine. But I always like, if you can meet face-to-face, I always think that's worth doing, especially with people you enjoy. You've met them face-to-face. You enjoy talking to them. It's actually better if you can find time to go sit down and talk to them. But if you can't, if it's too far away or whatever, then a follow-up call is fine. So if you do connect, there are three possibilities. You might end up deciding to do a project together. It could be a volunteer project. It could be a business project. I mean, I've team taught with people. I've brought people into my volunteer opportunities. Like there's all sorts of stuff that comes out when you do this kind of stuff. They may want to introduce you to someone. Oh, you're working on that. You should meet this person. That's great. And they may have other good events to recommend, right? It's kind of this virtuous cycle that as you meet people and get to know them, they have ideas, and you put all these ideas together, and it keeps working. And projects and introductions lead to more events and one-to-ones and all this stuff, and it just keeps on going. And the web forms very quickly as long as you're sitting down or getting on the phone. And again, I prefer sitting down. Like when you're doing face-to-face local networking, I prefer sitting down. As long as you're sitting down, getting to know people. Remember the fuel gauge. I tell people to set up networking meetings, and they give me a blank stare. Right? We've all been kind of conditioned that networking is about sales, right? You're going to sell your stuff. I need an elevator pitch that helps me sell. No, you need an elevator pitch that starts conversations, right? I've just shared with you the most powerful business networking model that I know. You find people you enjoy talking to and talk to them more. And in those conversations, it won't be in every conversation, but in those conversations are where you'll find all these opportunities. Someone introduces you to someone, introduces you to someone else, and then you get a gigantic client, or you end up keynoting an event, or it's amazing. And I'm telling you, it took me years to figure out this piece of the puzzle. And it works for networking groups and chambers and social organizations. Anywhere you're meeting with people, the goal is to find people you want to talk to more. I was at a networking event last week, and that that's what I did. I found there were a couple of people I was like, wow, these are pretty cool people to talk to, and so I'm setting up one-on-ones with them. And now one more thing. So even if you do use the exact script I give to my coaching clients, 1 out of 3 of these people will not have coffee with you. Right now, I don't understand it. I don't pretend. But if you send 3 people an email that says, hey, I enjoyed meeting you. I'd like to get together for coffee. These are some times I'm available. Please let me know what works in your schedule. 1 or 2 people will not. 1 or 2 people will get back to the schedule, and the other 1 or 2 will not. And so what do I do with the people who don't respond? I move on. I do not follow up with them. It's like the business cards, right? If you shoot them an email and they can't respond to your email, they're going to be useless when we get to the better part of business networking, right? This is another kind of weed out process, right? Some people don't get it. They don't understand why they'd sit down with you if you're not going to buy from them. You can't network with them, right? So you send out the thing, people you like, you send it out. The people who respond, that's who you go with. And so my client Liz, she's a great example of this. I was terrified of networking as an introvert. I found it difficult to enter a room full of strangers and break into conversations. I struggled to find anything interesting to say. Obviously, that was before she worked on her elevator pitch with me. Now I embrace networking in a completely different way. My focus shifted away from selling and towards getting to know people. Yes, getting to know people. I'm amazed at how much more relaxed and open I am, how much more natural the conversations are, and how I actually look forward to networking events. I love this. She's an introvert who now looks forward to networking events because she's getting to know people, right? You want to focus on the people. Focus on the people who know. Got another question coming in. Who pays for the coffee? That's a great question. Then it depends. I don't want you to get too hung up on it. Usually I offer to pay, and when I offer to pay, frequently the other person then offers to pay. You can always just pay for your own, right? I mean, there's not, it doesn't really matter, and it's a couple of bucks. I mean, it's so worth sitting down with people. I mean, you can get a tea most of the places around here for $1 or $2, or I mean, I know some people's budgets are tight, but really you want to be doing this. Like, it's worth spending a couple of bucks to sit down with people that you enjoy talking to, and don't get too squirrely about it. You can offer to pay, or you don't have to offer to pay. You can, people usually assume you're each paying for your own, and that's fine. So invite them to coffee. That's where the good stuff happens. So it's at the one-to-ones where you tell them what you want. Speak to networking events. Try. Yeah, I mean, but you tell them that by telling client success stories and sharing where your business is going. You just do it conversationally, right? You don't like read them off a list of things. You just talk, and as you talk to them, like, so what do you do? And you're like, well, I help copywriters talk at networking events. Oh, so you're a speaker? Well, no, I'm a speaker coach. But and as you have the conversation, they understand a little bit better what you're about. So but yes, that's how people start to understand. Right? People can't understand you. People aren't going to understand you from a 30-second whatever. Like, you can talk 30 seconds and everybody's not going to understand what you do. The same's true about a one-on-one. You need to have multiple one-on-ones. So invite people to coffee. That's where the good stuff happens. And it's something you can do right now. Reach out to a few people you like and invite them out to coffee. It's amazing. It's amazing how well this works. which brings us to following up. So I walked in on a new business once, literally on her first day of business. She was nice enough, but didn't have any money, so she wasn't going to be buying anything. And later that week, I saw her picture in the paper, big picture of her, great article on her new business. I clipped it out and put it in the mail to her. I actually put it in the snail mail. A year later, I walk in the door again, going back through the territory, and she recognizes me. She comes running around the counter like, you sent me that article. She signed up on the spot. And I'll say I taught one client this technique, and she saw an article about a prospect and talked herself out of sending it. Well, they probably already saw the article. So what? Think about if your picture was in the paper. You need copies for your mom, your grandma, your kids, your spouse, your fridge, your desk, your done good folder. And really, when do you get tired of seeing pictures of yourself? When you see it, clip it, address it, stamp the envelope, and send it. You can follow up with people with quotes, articles, something from social media, pictures, podcasts, news feeds, newsletters. If you get my newsletter, you can forward that to people. It's a great way of following, and you don't need to do everything every day, right? You just as you get something like, oh, this makes me think of that person, you stay in touch. It's followed like that guy Steve I talked about earlier. We followed up with each other. We sent each other things that seemed interesting. We just kind of did that, and so the reason, the people are worried they're being annoying when they follow up, and the reason people are annoying when they follow up is they're following up about themselves. Have you ever a proposal? Who can you introduce me? Have you figured out someone you can introduce me to yet? Me. So send them something about them. Nothing to do with your business. It's so tempting to mention your business, but don't. Just if you see an article about the hobby that they like doing, or I would just send it to them. Just, hey, thinking of you, right? Now, why do we do this? You met someone for coffee. Now you have to follow up. Let's talk about why this starts to feel overwhelming by looking at the circle of trust. So here's you, and here's your prospect. And you can bridge that gap by cold calling, right? That's what people do. And again, that's how people approach networking events a lot. And you gain rapport, you work really hard on that prospect, or you can let the magic of business networking take over. What do I mean by that? Here's you. Here's the person you want to meet. Now, there are lots of ways you can follow up with them. There's just one problem. It doesn't scale. So if you're looking for lots of clients, you got to reach out to people all the time. It's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting. So here's the way business networking works. Here's you. Here's someone you enjoy talking to. And as you get to know them and trust them and follow up with them, they give you access to the people that they know and trust. And even though they will never be a client, they know people who will. And the best way to follow up is with a referral. But I'm not talking about I gave you your contact information, or you can use my name. And the thing I got wrong for years is that you do not necessarily have to introduce clients. Why did I have that backwards? How am I going to find customers? I don't know how to do that. You don't have to. Referrals are very different. Here's an example. I have a longtime client named Laura. At a networking event, I met a woman named Bev. She and Laura are both mothers of young kids. They're both entrepreneurial. They have their own businesses. They're active in their communities. I thought that'd make a good connection. So, and here's the key. Here's me and Laura and Bev. I called Laura, described Bev, asked if she'd be interested in meeting her. Bev is here in Boston, Laura's in North Carolina. So to your question, Phil, it'd be a virtual meeting. But Laura sounded excited. So next, I got in touch with Bev. I said, hey, I described Laura to her, gave her the website, explained why I thought they would meet. I waited 2 weeks. Yes, business networking is not for the impatient. Bev's a busy gal, but she finally did email me back. She said she'd love the introduction. So this is the key. I sent them a co-introductory email. It looks like this. A little description of each person and why I think they should meet. With a co-introductory email, people make the connection 99% of the time. Now, we're talking about a little bit more work here because you have to talk to both people and let them know the introduction is coming. But that's what makes it a professional referral, that they both know it's coming and they both have all the information they need. And this is the thing. If you emailed someone earlier for a one-to-one and they didn't get back to you, they won't get back to you in this situation either. If you try to put them in touch with someone, they won't respond. And so there's no room for that in your business network. You need people who are willing to connect with people, right? So you need people who will get back to you. No good if they ignore you. You need to find different people. Actually, stop chasing the people who ignore you. Find the people who respond to you. And this is what happens. I got this email back from someone. I got one of my clients actually sent me a referral this way. And she introduced me to this guy, Bob. And from the co-introductory email, Bob's like, thank you so much for the flattering introduction, Suzanne. And Suzanne hadn't said that much that was flattering, but talking about people, it's just, you just give a little synopsis of how you met them and what they're about and what they're looking for. People respond to this really well. And the really fun part of professional referrals is that a couple of weeks after I introduced Bev and Laura, I get this email from Bev. We were discussing our troubles getting more people to join our board, and we realized while we're passionate about it, we're perhaps not the best about explaining it to others and getting them excited and interested in what we do. Yes, Bev sits on the board of a big nonprofit, and she brought me in to do training for them. And again, do I think she would have done this if I hadn't done the introduction? I don't think so, right? There's something about putting people in touch with good people. I mean, I put a client of mine in touch with a good website guy. She'd been struggling for 5 months. He fixed it in an hour, right? That's the kind of stuff that's good. I mean, that's a client example, but it doesn't have to be client stuff. It can just be client. And when you work with people this way, when you do this kind of professional referral, they start thinking about you differently. I can't explain it. I just know that it's true. I just know that it's true. Bev and Laura are never going to be clients of each other, but it created all sorts of opportunities. They may do a project together. They may share ideas. They may brainstorm. They may do an offering for mothers together. Who knows what's going to happen, right? And again, it comes back. It doesn't always come back from the people. I didn't do this introduction to get this work. I mean, that was not why I was doing it. I just did it to put them together. It's a nice bonus when it comes back this way. And Liz, again, I'll use her words because she said this really well. I found I was creating a stronger network of colleagues who were eager to reciprocate when the opportunity presented itself. Over the last few months, I have been amazed by how many opportunities have opened up for me as a result. And again, Liz she's running this program. You see people in networking events, you sit down for a one-on-one, you do a follow-up with them, and as you start to meet new people, you have opportunities to make professional referrals. And as you do that, more and more stuff starts to come back to you. So I'm going to take, so those are the 5. So that's the 5. Where you're meeting, who you're meeting, strengthening relationships, following up effectively, and giving professional referrals. That's the whole thing. And so what I'd like to do, I'd like to ask you a quick question before I take questions. Just go ahead and type in the chat box. What's the most surprising or valuable thing you just learned? And I went through a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff about business networking. If you can just kind of think, what was the thing that really struck you? Go ahead and type that into the chat box for me. I would appreciate that. And then we'll have a couple of minutes. I'm trying to keep this to an hour, so I got a couple of minutes to answer questions if people have questions. So go ahead and type in the most surprising, valuable thing you just learned. If you have questions you want to type in, go ahead and start typing those as well. Excellent. Thank you. It's great feedback. I appreciate that. Take the pressure off following up. Thanks. Yeah. Patience, bids, cards of the media. Yep, good. Okay. And so there will be a recording of this. It's the kind of thing I encourage people to go back and listen to the recordings. There's a lot of good stuff in here. A lot of cool stuff. I want to mention for one. So I have an escape from cold calling coaching program that I offer. It's 3 months. 3 reasons the program is different. I talked about it a little bit earlier. It's 3 months where we take you through this step-by-step process of building your network. And I've done this with a bunch of people. It works. It's really fun. You get to work directly with me. I've been there. I made the mistakes. I've created a network for myself that feeds both my businesses. I said I put one client in touch with a web guy. He solved it in an hour, which I've been struggling with for 4 months. I know what works and what doesn't. And I'm living this every day. I'm making contacts, having coffee, writing proposals, signing up work. I don't do cold calling, and I don't do advertising. And obviously, since it's directly with me, I only have a few slots available. Three now? It's 3? Yeah, so I have 3. Now the 3 spots. 3 spots left starting up now. So if you're interested in using business networking to escape from cold calling, I do encourage you to get signed up. It's a weekly call for the first month and every other week for the next 2 months. You'll get homework. You're going to go to networking events. I mean, it's work, but it really starts to happen fast. The second thing, 3 months. This is not open-ended. It's a 3-month program. Will you be all set after 3 months? Well, yes and no. I mean, you'll have the basics. You'll know it takes time for relationships to develop, but after 3 months, you'll have some wins, and you'll have the skills. You can keep applying it in your business network will grow and become better and better. And so this program shows you what's possible. Some people do want to continue after the 3 months, and the good news is that you lock in your monthly price. I never raise prices on existing customers, and folks who sign up for now get a $100 discount off my usual monthly fee. And again, if that carries over as long as you're a client, you're only committing for 3 months, but if you decide to continue, then you can lock in that pricing. The third thing I do, which is pretty unusual, is I call it unlimited coaching. We will have scheduled calls, but the way I work with my business networking clients especially is that we talk anytime. If you have a question, I don't wait for the next call. I mean, if you attended a networking event and want some feedback, pick up the phone, shoot me an email. I don't count calls. And people on my monthly plan, they all have unlimited access to me, so we can work most efficiently on your business, right? I don't want you waiting for the next call. If you got a question, if you're stuck about something, I like to just get you going. So so life is too short. Meet people, strengthen relationships, grow your business. Like that's what it's about. It's a pretty intense 3 months. But again, it's most intense the first month, and then after that, it starts getting fun because you start to get to know people and stuff starts coming in. Like it's a really nice way. It's a really nice way of doing this work. And so if you're interested in that, the escapefromcoldcalling.com is the information. You can go get signed up. If you have questions, you can type them in now. Again, I'll stay on. I realize we're at the top of the hour, so you have to get off. I understand. But I'm happy to stay on and answer questions if you have questions. And feel free to call. That's my direct line, so feel free to call me. And again, I guess we only have 3 spots left now, so they're going. So if you do want to, if this sounds interesting and you would like to get started on this, I do encourage you to go ahead and do that. And so now I can take questions. I will start with reading kind of the stuff that people get out of this. I think it's good to kind of review what we learned, and that'll give you a little bit of time to type in questions. So concentrate on networking, not selling. Yep. How to follow up, newsletters, articles. Great. Hillary said the idea that I should network to meet people, not to sell. Great. Yes, that is the key thing. Networking is all about meeting people. You will end up selling, but it's more about meeting people. Carolyn, to be really specific about who you help. Yes, key. Not pushing to sell. Martha, following up. Great. Thank you. Courtney, difference between interactions, prospects versus non-prospects. Yeah, that's another good distinction. Marketing, networking versus selling, and prospects versus non-prospects. Those are good things. Takes pressure off following up. Great. Patience is key. Yep. I like they did biz cards, fishbowl at a networking event. Yep. It was incredible, Suzanne. It's amazing what that does. If you don't connect, move on. Right. That is absolutely a key thing. If you don't connect, move on. Like that, you won't connect with everyone, and that's fine. David will need to establish relationships with people and not just do a direct approach to people. Yep. Great. Dawn has a question. Will this be available recording? Yes, I am recording this. It will be available. You'll see it in your email. Everyone who registered will get access to the recording. I'll have it up for a couple of weeks. It'll be available for a couple of weeks anyway. And yes, absolutely, I will make it available by recording. And it's such a. I do encourage you. You get a chance to listen to it again. There's a lot of good stuff in here. It's everything again. I mean, for folks that like working one-on-one, like they think it'll be helpful. Like that's really what the Escape from Cold Calling coaching program is for. You work directly with me. Like I just help you every step of the way. But there's a lot of good stuff in this. This webinar contains everything I teach. So that's great. So are there any other questions people have? How long are the calls? Great question. I schedule the calls for an hour. People are always surprised when I say I offer unlimited coaching. Like, don't people take advantage of you? But I actually find that it's the opposite. That with unlimited coaching, people are more efficient about the time. So we schedule calls for an hour. I mean, the elevator pitch, it takes an hour to create your elevator pitch, so that's definitely an hour. The rest of the calls, they tend to run an hour, but sometimes they don't need to. If we're talking every week, you might only need 25 or 35 or 50 minutes, and that's the nice thing. I don't really track it. The goal is to get the stuff done. The goal is to get you on the path. And so again, it's 4 calls the first month, and then kind of 4 calls the next 2 months, and each call is about an hour long. But if it goes a little bit longer, that's fine. I sometimes have something scheduled the next hour, but if you want more time, I'll schedule more time with you. Like that's really how I like to work. Like I didn't like the counting. I like coaching. Like I don't like counting minutes. I'm not a lawyer kind of thing. I'm not counting 6-minute increments. So I want to work with you. I mean, I did a call yesterday with a client, and we continued the call this morning. We did a 45-minute call yesterday and an hour call this morning, and that's fine. Like that's what she's paying for. Sometimes she gets off the phone in 20 minutes. Sometimes we stay on for an hour and a half. Like it just all evens out. So, but the call again, the call I schedule the calls for about an hour. That's usually what it goes for. But some people are more and some people are less. Great question. Any other questions from folks? All right, excellent. So thanks for being on the call today, everyone. Happy networking. I really enjoyed working with you. And again, if any of you are interested in the coaching program, encourage you to go to escapefromcoldcalling.com, sign right up. I'd be delighted to work with you. So thanks again, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. Bye.